Wow, what a season. Let me just say,
It didn't disappoint.
Season 2 had some big shoes to fill after the masterpiece that was Season 1, but I would have to say it did live up to the hype. At first I was a little worried, as the first two episodes seemed a bit slow, but episode 3 really picked up the pace, and from there it was just one banger after another. It's not that the first two episodes were bad or anything, far from it. It's just that Season 1 had such a strong opening, like one of the strongest openings for a TV show I've ever seen. And it just continued on that train of blood, gore, and MILF fetishes, all the way up until the very end. I haven't really watched through Season 1 since it came out, so I might change my mind if I rewatched it, but just based off of how I feel right now, I think Season 1 overall still has the edge. I gave Season 1 a 10 out of 10, so I would say Season 2 is probably sitting around the 9.5. I'm gonna go more into my thoughts on the actual show itself, but that is gonna get into some spoiler territory. So I'm gonna give you my Weeaboo warning right now and let you know, if you haven't watched The Boys Season 2 yet, you should go do that before finishing this video. Season 1 left us off with a huge cliffhanger, with Homelander meeting his son for the first time, with the Butcher, watching. The opening of Season 2 blue-balled us by not starting off right where it left off, but rather with the simultaneous scenes of Vought negotiating their deal with the military, and Black Noir taking out a terrorist group, led by a super terrorist. While we were all probably eager to see what happened next, I understand why they did this. They wanted to show the state of the world after the events of Season 1, and they wanted to keep us waiting in anticipation for what happened with Homelander, Butcher, and the bastard child. Seeing how much of a badass Black Noir was cool, and it showed us how much of a threat he was, which would help build some suspense later in the show when he showed up as a threat to the boys and girl. I like how they covered up how Translucent was blown to pieces last season by just pretending his body was invisible in his coffin. No surprise they turned his death into a PR stunt to try to push how much of a threat super terrorists, supervillains are. I really liked how much Homelander was a stickler for calling them supervillains. It just shows how childlike he is mentally, and how he wants to be a hero fighting the villains, like he's on some sort of TV show. We got to follow the Deep on his personal journey this season, with him trying to make his way back into the Seven. I know he's made some mistakes in the past, but you just can't not like this guy. Well, you can, but you just can't not like watching him. He's a gold mine when it comes to comedy, and both this season and the last. The peak of his comedy this season had to be the whale scene. The Deep finally had his moment to look like a badass, controlling a bunch of sharks and a massive sperm whale, standing on top of it like a hero. Only to have his moment stripped away from him when Butcher rammed the boat into the whale, impaling it and knocking the Deep out. What a horrifically great scene. This was probably the moment when I had my faith restored for Season 2. You also kinda have to feel bad for the Deep with all of these creatures he gets to know and converse with getting brutally killed in front of him. On an even deeper level, no pun intended, it's kind of messed up how people in the Boys universe keep killing and eating sea life, considering the Deep can vouch for the fact that they have intelligence on a level that can communicate with humans. And I'm sure this isn't limited to sea animals. Honestly, everyone who doesn't go vegan in the Boys universe is kinda fucked up. The Deep also got us introduced to the organization called the Church of the Collective, who are a bunch of nutjobs who really like Fresca. I mean, really, what was with all the Fresca? This is one of the reasons why I was worried with this season, as it had such blatant product placement with those Fresca scenes. It did turn out to be pretty funny in the long run, but I was kinda expecting them to have more meaning by the end of it. With people in the comments section in my last video even saying that they think the Fresca might have something to do with the heads blowing up. But no, it seems they were just well liked by the guy in charge of the church. So in the end, it seems like it may have just been a product placement used as a long-running joke. You wanna know what the worst part is? Now I actually wanna try a Fresca.
Wow!
Similar to the Deep, A-Train also joined the Church of the Collective, as a way to get back into the Seven. But unlike the Deep, he isn't a complete failure, so it actually worked for him. It looks like next season A-Train will be back in the Seven. We learned Kimiko has a superpowered brother this season. But more importantly, we learned that she's Japanese. Which is important because I love everything that comes from Japan. So obviously she has become best girl. Well, maybe it was revealed she was Japanese last season and I just forgot. But who cares? Just like who cares about her brother, who seemingly had a really overpowered superpower, but ended up dying in like 2 episodes. Also, for some reason their little sign language moments weren't subtitled the first time I watched it, and I was like, why the heck are these scenes with no dialogue lasting so long? But then I went back with subtitles on and realized they were actually saying things. However, this seemed to have been some sort of glitch, as there should have been subtitles for those scenes regardless if subtitles were on or off, and when I went back and checked another time, there were subtitles. So I don't know what went on there, but it was weird. Even with the subtitles, honestly, those scenes were kind of boring. Yeah, they're good character development for Kimiko, but she started off as a silent bitch, so she should stay that way. Just kidding, but those scenes were kind of meh. Speaking of our useless brother getting killed, his killer was none other than the new coming Nazi to the Seven, Stormfront. I think she was a great addition to the show, but by the end of it, she had some subtractions to herself. I'm not sure if she'll be sticking around for season 3, as technically we didn't actually see her die, though if she did survive, I'm not sure what she can really do in that state. I have to say, I didn't see the plot twist of her being a never-aging Nazi coming. She even had a daughter that died of old age. She's like the mother of all MILFs. And this is like ringing the dinner bell for Homelander, so you know he ended up having a piece of that ass. Their superpowered sex scene was a sight to behold, and she even tried to be a mother figure for his son, being so kind as to lend herself as being the meat for the cookout. Before she was revealed to being a Nazi, I was interested to see how a super woke superhero would turn out, with her bashing Vought all the time and even getting on Homelander's nerves by taking his glory. So I was a little disappointed when we realized her woke personality was just an act, and how she ended up glorifying Homelander as some sort of super Aryan. But I like what we got as well. Homelander, of course, is amazing as always, arguably the best in the show. It was great to see his relationship with his son, as it actually humanized him a bit and showed us his vulnerability. He also showed us how jealous he could get, both with Queen Maeve and how he released her secret of being gay, and Stormfront with how he got pissed when she lied to him. Though that ended up with him consensually lasering her tits. His weirdest scene has to be with Doppelganger, and how he made him turn into Stillwell to comfort him. It was especially weird when Doppelganger turned into Homelander and tried to make him have sex with himself as one last resort to save his life. Homelander realized he didn't need someone else to have sex with himself, so he killed him. One of the craziest scenes with Homelander was when he mowed all of those protesters down with his heat vision and his little fantasy. I had a feeling he was just imagining that, but that's something he could really end up doing, so it was hard to tell for sure when it was happening. If something like that ever really does happen, it would completely change the dynamic of the show. It was even alluded to at the end of the season when Homelander basically said he would destroy the world if Maeve let that video of him letting those people die in the plane get out. Homelander still seems to be the strongest person on the planet by far, with his only possible competition being his son when he grows up. So Homelander turning on the world is a scary thought. It would be like an angry toddler wreaking havoc on an anthill, or like Trump if he doesn't get reelected.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens.
Though it seems like Homelander can get away with a lot, considering how he killed that kid in the crossfire of his supervillain subjugation and basically had no consequences. Though it's not like the military hasn't killed their fair share of innocents in combat. However, Homelander is basically invincible and has pinpoint laser vision that's so controlled he can heat up a nice cup of breast milk. So him killing any innocents is gross negligence. The other MVP of the show, Billy Butcher, was also amazing and just as ruthless as always. It's hard to tell the good guys from the bad in this show when you have people like Butcher threatening to kill people's entire family unless they do what they ask of him. Not to mention trying to get rid of his wife's son just because he was cucked by Homelander. We got to get a little bit of insight on Butcher's past this season, even meeting his family, the most important of which was his dog, Terror. One of the funniest scenes in this season was when Butcher gave Terror a Homelander doll and told him to fuck it. And then Terror audibly did so as Butcher walked away. In the end, Butcher did end up showing he wasn't such a bad guy, as he let his wife's killer, and son of the man he hates the most, go scot-free, and even gave him a good luck charm given to him from his dead wife. His sidekick Huey's the same awkward yet lovable guy as always, but he managed to capture the heart of the number one beauty of Vought, Starlight, who also happens to be a murderer now. Frenchie's still French, and I'm still confused about how he has that one chick that seems like his girlfriend but apparently isn't, as he continues to lust after Kimiko, possibly due to being a closet weeaboo. Mother's Milk continues to be the most level-headed of the group, but he better watch out, as if Homelander finds out that's his name, he may take a liking to him. After Homelander revealed her secret about being gay to the world, Vought took this opportunity to market the shit out of Queen Maeve being a lesbian. It's ironic how them trying to promote gay pride is actually demeaning to her, as they basically turn her whole persona into her sexual orientation. But she isn't even really gay, but rather bisexual. But Vought doesn't want to let the world know that their prized lesbian also likes to get dicked down every once in a while. She also took a stand against Vought this season, fighting against both Black Noir and Stormfront, and standing up to Homelander to save Butcher. Black Noir got quite a bit more time to shine this season than the last. He takes the phrase silent but deadly to a whole new level. Though, his kryptonite is tree nuts. I'm interested to see exactly what his deal is. Unfortunately, I've heard his backstory in the comics, but it seems like the show is going in a different direction with him. Another former member of the Seven, Lamplighter, made his debut this season, and we learned he's a man of culture. Unfortunately, this season will also be his last, because he burned himself to death due to his guilt and daddy issues. I can't talk about this season without addressing the whole head blowing up fiasco. Both the scene where the CIA lady got her head blown off, and the one where everyone's head was popping like it was a party in the courtroom, were some of the craziest scenes in the series to date. I made a video theorizing on who the person responsible for these head poppings was, but unfortunately, I didn't get it quite right. Edgar was my main suspect, and while he still might be the one behind the hits, he wasn't the one actually doing them. That would be the new character, Congressman Victoria Newman, as revealed when she popped the head of the leader of the Church of the Collective. It's funny because I said Edgar being in the scene after the CIA lady's head blowing off was foreshadowing, but it was actually Victoria's face on the TV that was shown first. So I was right that the person shown in the next scene was the culprit. I was just wrong on which person. Though she killed the church leader after he talked about taking down Edgar, which is why I think she may be working for him. So it still would be Edgar behind the scenes. So maybe the foreshadowing was showing her first as she was the person directly responsible, and then showing Edgar second, as he was the person truly behind it. Huey actually ends up working for her at the end of the season, so it'll be interesting to see where that leads in Season 3. Another thing I'm looking forward in Season 3 is Jensen Ackles playing Soldier Boy. Supernatural is one of my favorite shows. Yeah, it's not anime, but they did make an anime based off of Supernatural, so it still counts, okay? And Jensen has done some great work there.
That was scary.
I'm sure he'll fit into the boys cast quite nicely. Overall, I thought the season was great, and I'm sure Season 3 will be great as well. The Boys could be on its way to being my favorite TV show of all time, and that's saying something considering I'm a weeaboo who's engrossed in anime. I may get some flack for liking something that isn't anime. I may get unjustly copyright struck from using scenes from The Boys. I may get age restricted due to using inappropriate content. But guess what?
I can do whatever the fuck I want! I can do whatever the fuck I want!